This month, I had the privilege of hosting a team call for my athletes where we got to talk about how to set their running goals. And I asked them to come to the call having watched a video that I made last year on this same topic, so that they could be fully prepared in filling out this running goals sheet that we had. And within this call, I also talked to them about what I believe to be the two top priorities they needed to focus on to reach their running goals. So I'm going to share those in this video, along with a third one that I also think is incredibly important. So number one is to focus on the systems. So too often we get very hyper-focused on that performance goal that we've set for ourselves. Very often a time that we want to see in a race, or perhaps it's just completion of a certain race distance. And in doing so, we really forget to focus on the day-to-day, which is absolutely what is crucial in you reaching those running goals. We don't just snap our fingers and get that goal that we want, right? So it is a matter of setting up the systems in a way that you know is going to allow you to reach that big running goal that you have for yourself. So this essentially means focusing on the process, and within that process, some of the examples that I could give you would be running most days of the week, running most of your runs at an easy pace, doing runner-focused strength training at least a few times a week. And a big one is not letting your excuses win, that you're going to do what you said you were going to do. So this is one that I see a lot, that people will think that they have all of their systems set up, but then something gets in the way that week, work went too long or something with their kiddo, and they were not able to get in the run that they said that they were going to do. And although that is okay once in a while and life happens, when you see this as a pattern happening over and over and over again, your system has crumbled essentially, and it's not the system that you set for yourself that you needed to reach that big running goal. And so when those systems crumble, then you're not able to do what you set out to do in the first place. And so by focusing on the process, those systems, and actually following those routines that you've set for yourself, then you know that when you get to the starting line, you've done everything in your absolute power to do the best you can do and reach your potential. Now, whether that means actually getting the goal or not, I can say that it doesn't matter. It does matter to us, right? But at the end of the day, if you can cross that finish line knowing that you gave it your all, that you couldn't have done anything better than what you did, then you have no choice but to be proud of that effort, and then take what you learned during that particular cycle and set your goal for next time. And what do you need to change in your systems for next time so that you can continue to improve and progress and get better? So you maybe will hear people talk about raising the floor versus the ceiling. That's essentially what this is. When you really focus on the systems and that process versus just getting that time that you want better and better and better, it's really going to allow you to be better on your very worst day. Be better at average, right? And then when we're better on our average, the only possible thing that can happen after that is that you're getting better at your performance goals as well, and raising the ceiling essentially also. And that leads us into number two, which is just as simple as keep showing up. If there's anything that you do for yourself this upcoming year for your running to reach your running goals, it's just get out there and do the thing. I think we get very worried about things looking perfect, or perhaps we are not hitting pace when we're out there on a specific speed session, and we get frustrated and so we scrap it. And really, we have to remember that good enough is usually good enough. So this doesn't mean that you are putting in mediocre running. It just means that you are getting out there and doing what you said you were going to do. And whatever it is that you're doing is probably benefiting you and helping you get better. Now, you guys hear me talk a lot about easy running is the way to go. You need to do 80% easy running. And yes, In order to improve and get better and not hit a plateau and not get hurt, this is really, really important. But I also don't want runners getting so hung up on all the details and all the specific logistics that they don't actually go out there and do it, right? So I'm sure you guys have heard of the phrase 90% of success is just showing up, and I really do believe that. So it's getting out of bed when you don't want to, it's going out the front door when the weather is icky. It's even just telling yourself, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to at least give it 5 minutes and see what happens and allow myself to quit if I can't do it. And hint, you're probably not going to quit, and you're probably going to go way, way, way longer than 5 minutes. And that goes back to just show up, just get there, just do it, and big things are gonna happen. So I follow Steve Magness. He is an expert on health and human performance. And he had this finding that I thought was really important to share with all of you. And here's what he had to say. A few years ago, I tracked improvement rates of my college runners, compared it to a whole slew of factors to see if anything correlated. The most important factor, did they show up to practice? Those who missed the fewest days tended to improve the most. So as you guys can imagine, there's plenty of factors that he looked at. I mean, you guys could think of what they would possibly be, right? And we could go back to, why someone might miss a bunch of training days in a training cycle. And there might be a really good reason, right? Like I had COVID during this past training cycle and I had to miss days. I didn't have a choice, and it was, the best thing to do for my body. So if it's beyond your control, that's one thing. But if it is within your control, which it oftentimes is, sometimes we think it's not, like we run out of time in the day and we could have prioritized our time better. If it's within your control, then you need to make sure that you are putting in the work and showing up as much as you possibly can. So you can only make your body adapt so quickly. It may take longer than you want it to, those big goals that you're striving for, but they will happen if you just keep going. Okay, and the third priority I want you to focus on to reach your running goals is to let go of your ego. When we spend time thinking about how others perceive us and our actions, it gets in the way of our progress and our success. So when you think about how maybe you are not good enough, does that thought really come just from within, or does it come from the way that you think someone else is going to perceive you? Most likely it's the latter, because you're comparing yourself to other people and you think that they're going to look at you and think you're not good enough at that thing that you're trying to do. In this case, it would be running. I know I went through this a lot when starting this YouTube channel, and still do, honestly, guys. It's not easy to just say I'm going to stop caring what other people think. But had I let that really get in the way of me starting this channel and worrying about, what if people don't like me? What if people don't like the content? Then I would have never started. I would have never kept going, and I would have just been frozen in place. So obviously this is true in running as well. So on the one hand, we have the brand new runner who is petrified of getting out there and running because they're worried about what other people will think. And that's really sad, right? Because they're wanting to do something that's going to help their health and make them feel better in both mind and body. So if this is you, guys, I just want you to remember that any other runner that you see ahead of you was you at one point in time. We all had to start somewhere. And so you really just have to let go of that ego, stop worrying about how other people perceive you, and remember that the people who are looking at you doing your running, first of all, they probably don't care, but also you are probably doing far more than what they are doing. So just like anything that's new, it is messy. It is really, really difficult. Running is absolutely like that in the beginning. So just go out there, keep showing up like we talked to you about, be consistent, and you will be amazed at how quickly you get better. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the people who always want to run fast, who are always worried about people looking at them and they want to look good for them. So they get their ego stroked by having people tell them, wow, you're really fast. That makes them feel really, really good. That is like a normal human response, right? To feel good when we are recognized for something that we are doing well. And though there's nothing wrong with that, inherently, if this is something that you feel like you have to have for yourself, what happens on the times that you don't do well? What happens on the race where you don't perform well? You're gonna really, really struggle to get past that mentally if you're very, very worried about what that performance is going to look like to yourself, and then how you think other people are also going to perceive that. And I will say, guys, this was definitely me for a long time, that it's part of like, I thought that that's how you were also supposed to get better at running, is running hard all the time. But yeah, people would say to me, like at Orange Theory, like, wow, you're really fast or whatever. And that would make me feel good. And then it would also make me feel like I'd had to go perform that way every single time at Orange Theory, right? And so really in the last couple of years, doing a lot of soul searching and also realizing that's not how you get better at running. And just understanding that it doesn't matter what people think, and to let people's perceptions of me go, whether that is positive or negative. And I'm still working on it. I think we all are probably works in progress in that area. But yeah, it's definitely something that I know is difficult to do, but I encourage you to really improve in this area. Now, as a coach, where I see this the most is people not slowing down on their easy runs. And a lot of times they don't really think that it's ego getting in the way, but there are certain things that I see that I know that this is partially it. And this kind of just comes from that natural place of feeling like you have to prove to yourself that you are worthy of this certain time, or whether that's to you or to someone else that might be watching. And I think really every runner probably goes through this at one point in time. So once you really become comfortable with your abilities and be confident in what you know is right for your training, that's when you can really get past this ego-driven training that you don't want to have in place. So the best thing that you can do here, guys, is try to focus on ways that you can make your running less ego-driven, and just focus on doing what you know is best for you. Letting your ego go in your running journey is going to work absolute wonders for you, and I know that that's going to pay dividends in what you see in your running and how you progress and get better. Thanks for joining me today, guys. If you have other big priorities for yourself in reaching your running goals, I would love to hear them below, so place them there. If you guys are interested in coaching upcoming, go check out my page. I will put that below, and you guys can see at the time what I have available, or perhaps get on a waiting list for coaching if I do not have a spot currently available. I will talk to you guys in the next video.